Okay, I see it is officially 11, so I think we can kick off. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome to this webinar where we're going to be looking at what's new in Devotech iDAS 2021. It's presented by us, Baker Baines, and we've also got Devotech group of companies who's going to be taking us through the latest enhancements to the 2021 version. And I can tell you from the looks of it, it looks amazing. So let's jump into today's presentation and let's see what's going to be covered. All right, so of course we've done the welcome, and what we're going to do is we're going to just jump in to tell you who we are as Baker Baines, very brief and short. And then, of course, we're going to introduce the Devotech group of companies and iDAS. So for users that are quite new to the iDAS world or have not heard of it or would like to have some background to it, don't worry, I've got you covered. And we're going to take you through a quick overview of this technology. Thereafter, I'm going to hand you over to Antonin, who's going to actually take us through the Devotech iDAS 2021 version. So it's going to be really power packed and it's going to be really good. So please stick around. And if you have any questions during the course of the webinar, please jot them down into the chat box and we can get to them at the end of the session. All right. And then last but not least, we're going to conclude and let you get on with your day. All right, so a little bit about us, Baker Baines. We live by this, where we solve our customers' problems through digital transformation, helping them to design and make a better world. So if you wanted to know us in a quick snapshot, this is literally what it is. We've got four main segments: survey and design hardware consultancy, design software consultancy, business process improvement consulting, as well as blended learning, and so on. In terms of the segments that we do specialize and support, we practically cater for all of the major segments. So civil infrastructure and mining is the segment that I normally play in, but of course we've got specialists in different segments, like build being vertical construction, whether you're talking architecture or structural engineering of buildings. We've got process plant, energy, and manufacturing as well. In terms of the technologies that we strongly believe in, of course, everyone knows Autodesk, starting from AutoCAD being the flagship, and now it has grown to such a big provider in the BIM space. We've also got Leica and Topcon, which are on the 3D laser scanning part of Scan to BIM, with Leica being the BLK 360. It's used for interior scanning, really good. And of course, if you're on the construction side, we would recommend a Topcon, something like a GTL 1000, which you're seeing on your screen. CAD Learning is the brilliant tool that's used by all designers. If you haven't used it yet, please check it out. It's an online learning portal which has probably about 50 plus Autodesk titles like Civil 3D, InfraWorks, Map 3D, Vehicle Tracking, Inventor, AutoCAD. All of the hero products are on there with pre-recorded classes that you could actually go and learn the software, either project-based or in your own time. So really good for upskilling on the go. And last but definitely not least, our topic for today is iDAS. You're going to see what a powerhouse of an add-on this is to Civil 3D that makes designing that much better. I mean, it's a definite arsenal that you would like to have in your civil designer's kit. So definitely have a look at it, and we're going to expand on it shortly. So very quickly, we've given you an intro on who Baker Baines is, but what is Devotech iDAS? All right, and what are the origins of it? So of course, Devotech iDAS, iDAS standing or an acronym for Infrastructure Design Automation Suite, is developed by the Devotech group of companies. Devotech iDAS is an add-on or an add-in to Autodesk Civil 3D, and they have offices situated here in South Africa as well as in New Zealand. They closely work with civil design professionals, which is really great because they take that feedback and they incorporate it into their design tool, which makes it that much more better. And of course, South Africa, Baker Baines is the official Devotech iDAS reseller here in South Africa. In terms of the functionality, why you should look at Devotech iDAS, First of all, it converts Civil 3D into a full BIM application. We all know that Civil 3D does lag in certain areas, being a great tool as it is. And if you have to kind of pinpoint things, it's definitely on the pipe networks part, optimization or streamlining in the road design, intersections, those type of things. And Devotech iDAS actually adds to that functionality, picking up those weak points and making it that much more better. It also has a comprehensive pipe network catalog, especially here in South Africa. We've got all of the local catalogs that are predominantly used by municipalities throughout the country. So it makes it that much better when you're doing your quantification and designs and so on. So it makes it easier when you're working from a catalog that you know, makes construction and ordering that much better. In terms of the quantities, you could actually do the quantity takeoff directly in the interface. So iDAS works directly in the Civil 3D interface. There's no need to open up another application and import, export, that type of back and forth. Everything is done in the interface. You can get your pipe network quantities, trench excavations as per SABS 1200 and so on. It has a ton of styles. I mean, 1800 styles, that is quite impressive. So you can really cater to what you would need, and you can also customize it if needed. They do offer those services. And of course, the automated road and intersection wizards are a game changer, especially if you're doing urban design and you've got a good network of roads to deal with. This makes your life very, very easy as a designer. And if you have to look at it in terms of design fields or topics, it enhances dynamic efficiency in these fields. So survey and surfaces, platform design, urban roads, single and dual carriageway roads, storm and sewer, bulk and pressure pipes, as well as water reticulation. So if you haven't test drive their software yet, or this add-on in Civil 3D, I strongly recommend it. You can head down to their website, download a trial, give it a shot, and there's more than enough support there to help you get up and going. All right, so now that you've got an idea of this awesome tool that we're going to actually be demonstrating to you or showing you the enhancements to, I'm going to hand you over to Antonin from Devotech Group of Companies, who is going to actually take you through this great functionalities that it's power packed with. So I'm going to just switch my presenter mode to Antonin and make him the presenter. And Antonin, you could take it away.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see your screen. Perfect.
Wonderful, wonderful. Good morning, everybody. My name is Antonin and I'm from Devotech Group of Companies. And in today's presentation, I will quickly get you through the what's new in Devotech iDAS version 12. We put a lot of development on this new version, but the most emphasis was put into the pipe manager. So if you go to our iDAS ribbon, you will see that we don't have a pipe managers for each pipe network type. We combined all the pipe managers into one pipe manager. I have a stormwater network here in plan. This is in South Africa. And let me open the new pipe manager and I will show you what's new and what we worked on. So when I open pipe manager, it will display the map in plan. I'll show you right now. What we incorporated the Civil 3D coordinate systems into iDAS. So when you open the pipe manager, in a plan, you can display the map as in Civil 3D. You can also change the type. You can use a road or hybrid, or you can use the aerial. It's up to you. So this is the first thing. So it incorporates the coordinate systems from the Civil 3D. I actually created a negative coordinate system in Civil 3D, and that actually gets translated into iDAS. I created a negative coordinate system because I want the BIM maps to display correctly in a third or fourth quadrant of the coordinate system, which we often use in South Africa. And that gets translated to iDAS without any problem. But you can always negate coordinates and have other tools to get it right if there is an issue, or if there is a shift. You can even use a constant to shift it horizontally or vertically. So this is the first enhancement. Then we introduced the themes. You can see that the user interface looks quite different. We introduced the ribbons, so it's easier to go through the menus and all the settings. But we also introduced the themes. The original or the default theme, the iDAS dark theme, is very similar to Civil 3D theme. You see the coloring is very similar, so it looks quite the same. So you don't get disrupted with the different styles. But then if for whatever reason you don't like a dark theme, you can always go and change the theme to other theme. So let me, for example, try to use another dark theme. I will use Expression Dark. Let's see what it looks like. It will take a few seconds to change. So this is another one if the other one is too dark for you, or you can go even lighter. Let's say I will use Office 2007 Silver. But unfortunately, the original theme or the icons and everything was developed for the dark theme. So some of the icons might be a little bit too pale. And even if I go to profiles, you will see some of the text is hard to see. We might probably work on that, but the priority is the iDAS theme, which is the one we used for the development, and everything is optimized for that theme. But like I said, if you have any reason for using a different theme, you can. Then the other enhancement we introduced here is that we have some tooltips, but sometimes the tooltips might be quite annoying, so you don't want to see them. You can go to settings and you can switch them off if you wish to, so no longer no tooltips, so it doesn't interrupt you. Then we have an integrated help file. If I click on a help file, then I can click in here. And I can go to, or actually this is under the documents. So you can either go there from the documents or you can go there from this help file. So you can go and search. If you press Control F, you can search for the commands and so on. When I'm speaking about the help file is not updated with the latest user interface because we know that videos are more important. So we rather put a major emphasis on videos than on the help file, but that will come at a second stage. So let me go back to plan and I will show you a little bit more in plan what we introduced. So first option you have here, the aerial photo, as I mentioned already, but you can also display polar lines. If I go to view, there's an option, let me see, there are some polar lines which are overlapping with some other objects which were used to create those catchments and flow lines, so I can switch them on and off if I wish to. I can also modify the labels, the surface labels, but let me go, let's say, to switch off the structure labels. As you can see, sorry, the structures itself, not the structure labels. I can switch over the structure labels. So you have some, no house connections, but pipe labels definitely are here. So you have some kind of control of the plan to have a lighter view. You can switch off the surface if you wish to. If it's too busy and you struggle to see, you can switch it off. You can zoom extents if you want to, if you lose your focus, as that can also be quite useful. If you select any pipe or structure, then there are some other commands, like you can swap structure from plan. You can set it as a start structure for a profile, which I will get later on. You can select similar if you wish to. You can swap the multiple structures if you want to. So you have some kind of control, so you don't need to go to Civil 3D that often as before. There was actually a request from the clients. They don't want to go between iDAS and Civil 3D, so they would like to do as much as possible in iDAS. So that's why we introduced those commands. And then let me go to profiles. And let's see what options we have here. In a profile, we display the profile. You can specify start structure, and then it creates a profile for each structure. You have a few panels. Those panels can be adjusted. You can go to plan at the same time. If you highlight the pipe, it also highlights in plan, so it's easy for you to navigate. You know where you are. You can also maximize this window or minimize if you wish to. So you have quite a few options here. When it comes to view itself, you saw that if I go to plan, let me go to plan, then I switch to profiles. It will automatically switch the ribbon to profile, you see? So you don't need to do it manually, so it does it automatically. But if you want to specify what you want to display, you can always go and switch on off the labels if it's too busy, if you want a cleaner view, so you have some kind of settings here. Then you have an option to modify pipes and structures from these profiles, or actually from this profile view. I can select multiple pipe, I can use a shift, and I can use a control command, sorry, not control, I want to use an alt command. You can move it up or down, as you can see. I'm using keyboard shortcut. This was actually introduced in iDAS version 11 for the sewer networks, or I can use a control to move it up or down. I can use a beginning or end. So there's quite a few options. If I select those two, I can regrade with another keyboard. So you see it's work like that, stays together. So those are editing options which were available for sewer before, but now they are available for stormwater as well. If you want to explore a little bit more about those editing options, the keyboard shortcuts I'm using right now, like a control and alt with the combinations with the keystrokes on my numeric keypad, you can always go to help file. And the quickest option is to go to control F to find, and control +9. I want to see what it does, and I search for it. And here are the details. Although it is under the sewer network chapter, don't worry about it. Here are the keystrokes, like you move it up or down, and you either hold the control, or if you want to regrade, you press alt. If I go back to profiles, here are the grade or regrade options where you can specify what you want to hold, whether you want to hold the whether you want to keep the slope and calculate slope and fix drop, or fix slope, calculate drop, or fix slope and drop. So you have quite a few options here where you can check or change the settings and apply it for your regrade. So you can do it from here. You can also select the structures and you can modify them if you want to. You can select multiple structures, for example. They will highlight in plan. They are highlighted here in this grid view as well. You can right click then, and you can use commands like, I want to adjust relative rim elevation, and I want to be, let's say, 0.2 above surface, and it moves both structures. So you have those editing options here. And you have even more. I won't go through everything, but remember that we have a right clicks here, and you can modify pipes and structures. You can lock the pipes which are already set and you're happy with them. I can do it quickly. So if I select this pipe, lock both ends like that. So there are padlocks, it's grayed out if I escape. So you know this pipe shouldn't be moved at all. So those are basic editing options, but there is, of course, much more. You probably see that there's an exclamation mark. If there is an exclamation mark, there's something wrong with the structure. And if you hover the mouse over it, it should tell you what's wrong, or pipe or structure. If I go to structures, it complains here that the drop is smaller than the minimum one. Minimum one is defined here, so that's why it complains. So that should be easier for the users to find out what's the issue. So use those tooltips, but those tooltips can't be switched off through that, because these are very important for the users to understand what's wrong with the problem. If you look at this grid, actually, you see that there are some icons for each column. Those are non-editable columns. And then we have editable columns where you can just type in the values, you can modify. You can specify everything slopes, for pipe slopes, and for structures, rim elevations, some elevations, and so on. And then we have a calculated values, which have a blue color, and they have a little calculator there. So those values are calculated, you can't modify them. So this is also, it should be easier for the users to understand what they can edit and what they can't edit. Every single grid in iDAS, in new pipe manager, can be exported to Excel. I go to export grid. I will put it on my desktop. I will call it grid 1 just to show you what it looks like. Then I go to my browser, grid 1. Let me open it now. And you will see the result. So this is the result. So it exports everything, the graphics, everything, even those little icons. If you don't like them, you can always copy and paste this to another sheet if you want. But every grid, or almost every grid, I believe, can be exported to Excel, which is quite nice. I'll show you later on that you can do that for catchments as well. And then there is another nice feature where I can export the branch for the project to report, but I'll show that when I run the analysis. I will create an analysis report, and I will export everything, or the branch details as well. Let me go to structures. Now I will come back to catchments when I speak about the stormwater networks. For now, I just speak about the general improvements on an iDAS pipe manager. If I go to structures, again, you can highlight structures in plan. You see they are highlighted here. You can select all, like in Excel, if you click here, you can select all. Of course, you can sort by values if you wish to. That's also quite handy. Then if you want to find a specific structure, you can zoom to, and then it finds out in a plan where you are. And then you have a property graph. So for each, like if I'm under rim elevations, it shows me the property graph, and I can see the average values or the values of the selected object, as you can see. So it shows me what are the typical values, because sometimes some parameters might be like a very different from the other structures. Then you can quickly spot, oh, there's a problem. So any property can be actually, not any property, but numerical property which has a values can be displayed here in this graph. Let me go to pipes or conduits. A very similar approach applies to conduits. Again, you can select all of them if you wish to. They get selected in a plan. You can select only a few of them with a mouse or shift or controls. They get highlighted. You also have a like a property graph. So they're basically the same. You see there's a padlock shown if it is locked. So these are the enhancement here. By the way, if I click here in a plan, I have some short menus as well, basically analyze, report, graphs. In fact, if I click on any grid, I have quite a few options here again, where I can do some editing options, locking, and I can quickly go to the most used tabs. Basically, the same applies to structures. I can do the same here as well. So these are the improvements for the editing and navigation through the interface, because it's much quicker for me now. Like, let's say I want to go to patterns or curves or controls, not in this case, but yeah, so that's quite nice. Let me go to library. Library, also, we did a lot of improvements in the library. For example, if I go to patterns, I can create a new pattern. I can specify the number of periods, let's say 24. I can copy patterns. I can export patterns. I can import patterns. I can remove patterns. So it's much easier than what it was before. So you can easily modify the values. You can just use the arrow down and then change the values. And if you use a specific patterns all the time, you can just export them and use them for multiple projects. So this is also very convenient. The same applies to curves. We can do the same for curves, where you can, again, copy curves, import, export curves, and you have a different curve types. Let me just delete those objects which I created right now because they're not assigned anywhere. I'm not going to use them for my analysis. Okay, there are IDF curves where you can create IDF curves, hydrographs. These hydrographs are actually generated by the analysis. So when I run the analysis, it creates a hydrograph for each catchment. I will get there. And even these hydrographs can be exported to Excel. You can create them in Excel. You can import them from Excel. Then unit rainfall. This is for the Epasson method. There's a runoff coefficients and hydrograph tables, which are just the preview tables. I'll probably get there a little bit later when I run the analysis. Let me go to mappings. We did a lot of changes here as well, because the previous mapping was very limited. You had to use so-called wildcards to assign the structure styles to a structure tab. This is a structure style which is available in a template, and this is a structure tab, how iDAS sees it from the analytical point of view. And what's nice that you can see which objects belongs to which structure style. And if there's an issue, like if it is not assigned, you will have an exclamation mark there, and that will warn you that there is a problem. And I want this should be a stormwater inlet structure, should be recognized like that, because these are KIs. And this actually caused, this is one of the main reasons why we had to disable the backwards compatibility, because this is completely different approach. So it's not compatible backwards. So if you open the network in the latest iDAS, in the iDAS version 12, you update it and you save the drawing, you can't open it in iDAS version 11 or iDAS version 10. And it's because of the mapping, because this is much more enhanced mapping, and the older engine doesn't understand what's going on. So that's why we had to do it that way. And we don't like it at all, but unfortunately there was no other way around this. But this is much more powerful, so we believe for future it will be much more practical to use this type of settings. And again, you can easily import, export if you use a specific mappings all the time. You can share it with your colleagues. So this is quite easy and nice to use. So if you use a multiple templates, this is very convenient. Let me go to bill of materials. Here, basically, the interface looks a little bit different, but the most important is a site clearance, which you can modify right now. And if you want to run it, you can run it. So it calculates your quantity, so you get all these tables and details. And again, let me see. Yeah, I was under the impression we can export it to this one can export, but that's something we really need to implement. To export this grid, I think the programmers forgot to add export of the grid to Excel, because that's something we really need to be able to do. Then under the documents, I have already been there. So this is the help file where you can go. You can always use our PDF as well if you prefer. But if you don't want to go somewhere else, you can just go to help file or documents and you can come here. There's a as-built functionality which we introduce. I will show that completely in a like a new drawing or different drawing. And what it does, that you can assign the elevations or the properties, all these properties, like a structure rim elevation, some elevation, or pipe invert crowns and so on, from the text in a CAD drawing. So if you get the drawing from the surveyor with the polar lines for the pipe network, but those polar lines, they are often in a 0 level, but it will give you the text for each invert level at each structure. To recreate that network is very tedious to do it manually, because you need to check what's the elevation, go to pipe properties, assign it. This command, actually, or this tool, can assign it automatically from the text. So it will look for a text which is close, and then it will check what's the level, and it will ask you, do you want to assign it to your pipe or structure? If you click yes, then you can assign. So something like if you have an average network, like a 2 days work is done in a few minutes. So this is a huge time saver if you need to recreate existing network, or if you need to recreate as-built network and compare it with the design. That's also very useful, but I will come back to this one. So basically, these are the major enhancements just for the pipe manager. And let me go into more detail for stormwater networks, what we did. So I go to catchments, and under the catchments, the major improvement is that we have now 3 hydrology methods: the rational, EPASM, and hydrograph, unit hydrograph method. This unit hydrograph method is based on a TP108 from Auckland. It might look like for South Africa it's not applicable, but I know a lot of clients in South Africa do project work for Canada, Middle East, Australia, New Zealand. So maybe it might be useful for you as well. So unit hydrograph method based on a TP108. If I switch to that one, you see there's a lot of parameters for each catchment. So it's quite complex method, very complex method. But we have it now, it's fully automated. If you ever tried to use it with Excel spreadsheets and with the convolutions in Excel spreadsheet, it's a very laborious process, while with iDAS, we believe it's much faster now. So this is a very big improvement, the hydrology method we implemented. And then what's nice as well, like a small thing like Kirby. In a previous version, you had to specify Kirby to each and every catchment one by one. Well, now the Kirby displays, and I can set it for multiple. I can go to Kirby attendance coefficient 0.6, and it's done. So it's much easier. And if I switch back to Kirby, you will see this will disappear. So it's a kind of dynamic. If you do any changes like now here at the bottom, I have a panel where I can have like a profile for, let me select one catchment only. Profile view for this catchment start and end based on a method I'm using, Kirpish, so it's a 1085 method. I have a profile data and I have a hydrograph. Let me select more hydrographs here. It doesn't show. But if there is any change, if you do any change in the settings, what might happen that it doesn't update immediately the hydrograph. For that purpose, we have this calculate button, because we can't recalculate everything automatically every time you do the changes. Because if you do changes to, let's say, 300-400 catchments, then it takes time, and you don't want that. So that's why we had to introduce this button to recalculate if you want to see the new hydrographs. Luckily, when you press the analyze button, it recalculates the catchments first, so you don't need to worry about it. It's just to get the real life preview here updated so you can check. So this is quite nice. You see the hydrograph for each catchment or for multiple catchments, so you can see whether it looks right or not. Then the right-click menu. We have a right-click menu here as well, where you can do quite a lot. We can do a lot of properties here as well. You can also run the analysis from here. And then you can use a filters here. This is very useful. For example, here I have a catchment, but I want to display, let's say, all the catchments from which do have a number higher than 5 and smaller than 10. So if I come here, there is an option to display filters, and I can specify if the value greater is greater than 5 and is less than 10, apply, and it shows me only those catchments. And if I don't want to that filter be applied, I can clear, and then it displays all of them again. This is very useful if you have a huge project with few hundred catchments. It can happen. We were assisting clients with such a projects for testing purpose, so this is very handy to use. So filters, not all the headings offer filters, but like in our structures, we would like to have a filters here as well, but that will come a little bit later, because it would be quite convenient to use that option. Now, let me go to analyze button. We have two options. I can either right click anywhere and I can analyze directly, or I can go to ribbon analysis and I can click on analyze. But there's one new button which we introduced. There's a create Excel report with the analysis. What it means, it will actually create a report in the Excel for the analysis. So I can now click analyze from anywhere. So it runs the analysis. It says completed. I will open that report. It created in a same folder where my project is. I'm opening it from my browser. It's a normal Excel, and then you get all the tabs: node summary, conduits, depth summary, and so on and so on. So you have all these details there. So I will close that for now, and I will still come back to results, but I want to show you one more thing. If I go to profile views, I can export branch to project report. So I created a project report and I can export branch to that report. So let me press it now. And if I open that project report again, it must be closed, of course, because I'm accessing it. There should be a new tab. Let's see if it does display or not. Branch, here we go. So branch details. Let me see. Didn't let me see. Why hydraulic grade line, energy grade line. It should. Let me see why it doesn't show me all the details. Continuous station, minimum, maximum. Branch. Yeah, it doesn't show me the details. I need to find out why. Let me check. Because there's nothing displayed. Let me reanalyze, or let me try a different just to refresh. Here we go. So I had to refresh the view. Once it's refreshed, let me try again. So I will export this one. I'll close that first and let me export branch to project report. Then I will open it again, and I should get all the details. Let me see. Here we go. So these are all the details for the specific branch. Let me close it. I will go to analysis. I don't want to override it every time now. And excuse me. And let me go to reports, because I said I will go there. So let's go there. And here we did some improvements as well, because originally we only had analysis report, which is nice to have. but not that easy to go through. Now we can go to node depth summary. You can sort it by objects or by any other entity, and then you can check the results. And let's say, let me go to node surcharge summary, and I can highlight them, and it shows me those two are surcharge. I have a problem there. Or let me go to link or conduit surcharge. There's a one conduit surcharge, it's this one. So this is quite nice that you can always highlight the objects in a plan and you know where the issue is. And like if you select multiple objects, they all get highlighted. So again, very practical for previewing the results. These reports can also be exported to Excel if you wish to. And I believe that's all about the reports for now. Let me go to graphs. We also improved the graphs. You can now display multiple graphs for multiple objects. I'm currently displaying the depth. There is no depth, probably no flow. Let me switch that off, and I will display lateral inflow. And if I like move this slider, I can move in or out, and that also refreshes the view. But what's even nicer, so you can display various properties for structures, but you can also add the conduits. Let's say I want a flow, and I can display the flow. Let me refresh it again. So you have, let's say, 3 graphs displayed underneath each other. And that's also very practical, and multiple pipes, and also velocity. So you can do a lot here. So it's much better, and the performance, as you can see, it's faster than the older version. Older version was a little bit slower in comparison with the new version. So these are the graphs. Now let me go back to profiles, because under the profiles, what's the time? 36, good. Because under the profiles, when I run the analysis, you can see that there are some icons, and there is something like happening here. So if the structure is flooded, then it shows this icon, so you know which structure is flooded. And if the structure has an inflow from a catchment, it shows this little icon. But I can also specify the direct inflow. I will use a Control E to zoom extends to display the entire profile view. And I will go back to my structures, and I will specify the direct inflow. I will specify direct inflow for inlet, let's say KI 3.1, and I will use, let's say, 0.05, 50 liters per second. And then I will go to manhole 1.3, and I will use, let's say, 0.06, 60 liters per second. I will reanalyze. You see, this is very handy, where you can just right-click, reanalyze, and I can go to profile. I want to display branch from 1 point, KI 1 point, and here I can see that this one has a direct inflow, and I think KI 1.3, if I remember well. Let me go back. Let me go back to my structures. Inlets, where 3.1, that was my mistake. So I go to branch 3.1, and here there's a very tiny icon. It's because it must be 16 by 16, but you can see that there are 2 inflows, the direct inflow as well as the catchment inflow. So this is also kind of improvement. So this is basically about the stormwater networks, and I can move to sewer network improvements. I will just close. I won't update the changes for now. So I will click no for now. You see, to update the results, it's just next to these buttons, so it's easier for user to see, okay, I can update results to Civil 3D or not. Updating results to Civil 3D takes longer to update Civil 3D database. That's why as a default, it's off. So this will update only the geometry. This will update the results. This is the difference. Geometry, results. But I will close for now. I'm not going to update anything. And let me go to sewer network. And this is a very basic sewer network, which I have with the house connections. Let me open the pipe manager directly, and I'll show you few improvements we did, especially for the house connections. It's busy opening. You see the pipe manager looks very the same. The only difference is that if you have a sewer network, then the house connections tab will appear. And then I will stop here because I want to show you a little bit more. Again, you have a panels which you can move to stretch together bigger or smaller areas. We worked a little bit on a naming as well to make it clear. So you can always go to house connection details and you can read what are the names for each object. You can make this picture bigger if you wish to. It stretches it, but you can, if you can't read it, so you can make it bigger. So then you understand what naming convention we used where, so you're not lost. So you can't remember what's, let's say, main pipe invert elevation, where it is exactly. So you can come in here, main pipe invert elevation. Oh, it's this one, then you know exactly. So you don't need to go to help file or somewhere. So this is like a little help. Then let's go to, I will go back to plan. And then in a house connection details here, this is actually a profile through the private sewer line and through the house connection line. Here we did some changes as well. You can see that there is a private sewer. Then there is a minimum calculated profile, but I will try to find out. Here we go. This is nice. The minimum calculated profile, which is actually defined the minimum distance below ground, start depth below ground. So it goes there. And then you have a final calculated profile, which combines various profiles to find the final one. So there's a little bit more information. Hopefully it's not overwhelming. I'm just trying to find out better examples where you can see it nicely. Let's see where, like here, this is a very nice example where you can see it. So again, so you can have a minimum profile which follows the NGL exactly with the minimum depth, and then you have that final where it connects the private sewer with your house connection, and this is the final profile. So there were some improvements, so you have more details here to understand what's there. Let me go to house connections itself. We introduce 3 creation methods: lower surface elevation, nearest pipe, lowest elevation, and nearest pipe downstream. The reason behind was that the old algorithm sometimes gave not the best results. For example, if you look at these results, this is just, I just ran it and that's it. So it gives quite a better outcome than the previous one, especially this nearest pipe downstream. This is probably the best method we have there. But there still might be places where you're not happy. And previously, if you wanted to move the house connections, you had to go to Civil 3D. While now I can select parcel 23 and I can go to move house connection. I can specify just a corner and it updates, and I have it in a corner here. And let's say I want this main pipe. I can select main pipe and I can just click there and it will update my main pipe. So if I go to update drawing, it will update my drawing. You will see, I will zoom to this location and you will see. So there is you don't need to go that often into Civil 3D, and that's actually what we try. We try to do as much as possible in iDAS. And here it updates the drawing. Hopefully the background color is not that bad. I can change it if you can't see the brownish color. Hopefully you can see it. Let me go back to Pipe Manager. And I will project house connections to profile view. So I'm going to Civil 3D tab. Previously, the projection house connections to profile view, we projected 3D polyline to profile views. You had to do one by one. While now, if I go to Civil 3D, I can add house connections to profile views. You can select the part list and you can select the pipe tab. Let me go to UPVC 34110. And then you can specify pipe size. I will use a super section style for long section. Now, why do I need to do that? Because we create a new network for house connections. Some clients, they wanted to run an interference check for the house connections, but the house connections were represented with a 3D polyline, not with a pipe network. So that's why we decided to create a network for the house connections, because we couldn't make it a part of the main network, because the clients didn't want that. They say, okay, this is my main network and the quantities, everything is for the main pipeline, but the house connections shouldn't be part of the main pipeline. But for the clash detection, we want to run it with network. So the only option was to create a separate network for the house connections, which you can delete at the end of the day if you don't want. But let me create it now. I click OK. So it's busy creating a new network on the background. You can create structures and pipes or only pipes, and it will project the, you see, finished adding. I go to update the drawing, and you will see that for each, I'll probably change the background color so you can see better the brownish color on this background. So let me do that right now. When it updates the drawing, let me go to options, and I will use a lighter background. Maybe this one can work. Okay, this is much better. And if I zoom in anywhere, there is, for each house connection, there is a pipe. This pipe is straight, while the polyline is just for the representation. In a drawing, it is like it has a bend, but those pipes are just straight. And there is this house connection structure. If I go to profile view, there are house connections structured because I created them, and the pipes projected. Now I can modify the network, but I can modify it here, or I can go to pipe manager and I can modify it in a pipe manager. So I'm busy opening the pipe manager, and I will quickly show you how you can adjust the pipes. It is the same like for stormwater networks. As soon as you create house connections, they appear in iDAS profile. If I go to profiles, so here you can see the house connections, and you can select the pipes, and you can, again, I'm using, let's say, control, moving the pipe down. You can see that they are linked together. Let's say for this pipe, I want to move invert down only, sorry, at the beginning. Then let's say I want to regrade from here to there. So I use Alt 3 to move it like that. So you have those options. I press Control E to zoom extend, and then I can continue with the regrade down. If I have a problem anywhere, I can always go to house connections and I can adjust it. So this is briefly about the sewer house connections. The rest, like library mappings, analysis, reports, results, graphs, that's all the same. There is no change. So that's like for stormwater. Then let me close this, and I'm not going to save any changes, and I'm going to water reticulation. Again, I will open the pipe manager. Let me have a sip of water. While it is busy opening. And you will see right now that we have a water legend. And if as soon as the pipe network is displayed, you will see it looks a little bit different than what it looked in an old iDAS version. Again, I can switch the surface on and off if I wish to. Here I have a fire hydrants, reservoir, and some valves. If I want, I can go to profiles. The profiles were primarily built for sewer and stormwater. They do display the profiles for water reticulation and bulk water pipelines as well, but unfortunately, or you can even modify the pipes, but it is not optimized for these network types yet. So I wouldn't suggest to optimize or to modify the networks here. Although it's possible, you can even go to structure. I can specify the sum depth should be equal to 0, and it will update. So it works, but in some cases when the direction of the pipe, because the problem is the different pipe directions. If the pipe direction is opposite, then it might look slightly weird. So if you experience that a pipe looks in the opposite direction, that's because of that opposite direction of the pipe. But yeah, it's better to have it than nothing. But like I said, we still need to optimize it for the water and bulk water pipelines. With the bulk water pipelines, they shouldn't be a problem because they have a specific direction, but for the water, they can run in any direction. Now, let me go to structures. So we just did some improvements here. For the water resources, you have a reservoir, boreholes, water wells, and connect to water source. Basically, all these use just the combination of the reservoirs and pumps, or just the reservoir Let's say if I go to water well, there will be like a power pump curve and so on, because it's a combination of the reservoir, which is a source of water, and the pump. Then if I go to valves, previously in the previous iDAS manager, all the valves were, not all the valves, only valves which did have an impact on the analysis were displayed under the valves. For example, air valves and scour valves, they don't have a direct impact on the analysis, so they were not displayed in a iDAS manager, either the or water manager under the valves. We got questions about it, so we decided, okay, let's bring them in. So they are there. So all the valves, like here I have a gate valves, they are displayed here, and they do have a like each tab individually. The same applies to junctions. Previously, we had junctions and bands. And some people, they were a little bit confused. So now we have junctions, and they split into two groups: bands, where there is a horizontal or vertical change in direction, and the fittings, where we have like a T's or saddles and stop and end caps and so on. So this is also improvement. Again, you can export everything to Excel if you want to. It's the same everywhere, or we try to make it everywhere. You can do the modifications as well. Then let me go to PAR or conduits. Under the conduits is the same like for other network types. You can see I have an exclamation mark there. It says that name may not contain spaces, although the analysis will run even with the spaces, but I will remove spaces. You can remove like that, and it removes the spaces. You'll see right now when it updates. Did it update or not? Let me try again. Remove spaces from names. Here we go. Yeah, this one removed. Remove spaces for name. Perfect. You can select multiple and remove spaces from names. So this is quite nice. You can do it for all under the links if you wish to. All the links can be displayed here. Again, you have a exclamation mark if there is a problem. Let me go to library. There's a nice improvement, the controls. Previously, we didn't have any controls, while now we have a controls. We have a node-based controls where you can specify that if specific junction pressure is below above specific value, then something should happen. Or we have a time-based controls, which means if, let's say, you want something to happen at a specific time since start of the simulation, it says here. And then we have a clock time based control. So this happens at a specific clock time, let's say 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So those are the controls which we introduce for the water networks. And then there's one more improvement. I'm not sure, I should probably remove these controls because I'm not going to use them anywhere. Let me remove them because I want to run the analysis, but I go to library and I go to patterns. This is set up in such a way that I can run the analysis, and this is a peak flow analysis, and it gives me the results for maximum flow. By the way, if I go to conduits, under the analysis, I can display maximum or the results at a specific time. Let me go to pipes so you can see the changes under the flows and velocities. You can see here. But if I go to library, I will want to show you something. There is a peak flow analysis. Instead of doing manual patterns for the fire hydrants and house connections, because if you have 20 fire hydrants, it's quite time consuming. You don't want to do it one by one. Then you can just run peak flow analysis. And what it does, it automatically generates those patterns for each fire hydrant and for the house connections. It also assigns on the background those patterns to your structures, and you can just run the analysis. So again, you save quite a lot of time, especially with the larger networks. So this is basically all about the water networks. And let me close this. I will not save changes, and I will move. We have about 7 minutes. I will try to quickly go to as-built. Let me explain you the situation. So this is the existing pipeline or as-built pipeline. I have invert elevations from the surveyor here, and I have a pipe diameters from the surveyor. If you look here, all the invert levels, they have like odd numbers, and all the pipes are 600 millimeters. But I want to assign elevations from these text values. So let me open Pipe Manager, and I'll show you how you can quickly, of course, you must create a pipe network first, but you can use iDAS wizard, create pipe network from polar lines, and then you can assign elevations from those text objects. Let me go to as-built tab. So this is the pipeline along the road. Let me go to as-built tab, and here it is. I can decide what I want to do first. I want to do the pipe diameter first. So these are the values in the text. So because the diameter sign is a percentage %C. So I want the pipe diameter to be taken from the layer as-built diameter. So that text is in an as-built diameter. I can specify the surge distance, let's say 0.5. So it looks within the 0.5 meters range if there is a text, and it will list it here. But I can't assign this weird text to a pipe or structure. So what I need to do, I can remove the text. I can put, okay, remove %C, and then semicolon and millimeters. And here I have a value, like a numerical value. I can sort objects by apply value. Again, I have a filters here where I can apply either the text filters or I can have a value filters. And then I can say, okay, those two pipes, I want to swap to 450. Before I swap, I need to specify the destination layer. So I want, if the text value was assigned, I want to move that text component to processed diameter because I know that was already fixed. And I go to apply parameter to section. I can choose a pipe type. Let's say I want 450, 75D, 450, and then I click OK. As soon as I do that, it will be removed from this list because that's already assigned. I won't do the rest just to save time. I go to pipe invert level at start, and then the layer as built invert level, and here they are, all the values. And then again, I need to apply the text component. So I want to remove IL, and then one has even meters, so I need to add meters. Now it becomes like a value to apply. I have a surge distance 0.5. Some of the values do not have a pipe because it looks for the start invert elevation only. And then I can sort it by name, for example. I can select all of them. The process layer will be processed invert elevation, and I click on apply. Then I apply, and it processes it, done. I should do the rest, but for now, let me update, and I want to show you the result. Update, so it's updating. So the first two pipes, they are swapped to 450, and the start invert elevations are applied, not the end invert elevation. And the text, if the text was processed, it is moved to processed invert elevation or processed diameter. So you know those pink text values were processed, they were used, orange were not used, green was not used. So you can quickly check what text were used and what not. So that's basically all from my side for today's demonstration. We have about 3 minutes, so if there are any questions, please let's go through them. Are there any questions?
I'm just having a look here, so just give me a second.
I'm also trying to find out if there are any questions.
Well, I do not see any on my side.
But we can ask the users if there is any question or if someone wants to ask a question.
Yeah, look, if anyone has any questions or anything like that, please jot it down into the chat box and we can take it in from there. So while Antonin is just transferring back the presenter mode to me, if anything pops into your head, please jot it out in the chat box and we can address it.
Okay, wonderful. And you can take over, so you can take your screen or you can share your screen. And I will go on mute for now, I think. So Shuaib, you can take over. So anyway, I will just thank you everybody for the attention and for joining us for today. And I will now let it to Shuaib to finish the presentation.
Thank you very much, Antonin, for that impressive demonstration. The updates look fantastic. Just some key takeaways for the enhancements that you've seen here. It definitely doesn't do it justice, but just to recap, of course, you can see we've got now a one pipe manager for all of the network types. It makes it so much more better to manage. It looks like Civil 3D. You've got different themes if you'd like to spice it up a little bit, but definitely a game changer in terms of the functionality. The map display and plan is also truly awesome. The new sewer house connection, the algorithms that have been added now is also great. Multiple graph displays is also quite nice when you're looking at the analysis part of it, how things are performing versus another. So you can display more than one simply by just selecting them. We've got the unit hydrograph runoff method. I definitely agree with Antonin that a lot of clients do work abroad, so this can be very handy when it comes to that case. We can definitely create a network from as-built, which is also so much of a time saver. Normally we would receive the data as you've seen Antonin display, and we had to literally manually do things. So the fact that you could actually read the text from there and assign the values, it's absolutely mind-blowing. And of course, for all the Excel fans, I think all the engineers really like Excel. You've got the export functions that actually help you with your report. So before I wrap it up, I'm just going to have one more look at the chat box to see if we have received any questions. Okay, I think it was a really content-packed session, so maybe people are still having a think about it, or maybe they're in the Friday vibe a little bit. So we don't have any questions at this time, but thank you so much to Antonin for that great presentation. I'm really excited to see the great updates that have been incorporated into the new iDAS version. I know you guys have worked really hard and tirelessly at it, so big kudos to you. And of course, if you want to reach us, or if something pops up in your mind later regarding iDAS, please, these are all our handles that you can actually reach us on, and we can take it from there. So thank you very much again to everyone who attended. And Antonin, if there's anything else you would like to add, please feel free.
I would like to just thank you for inviting me for this session. Really, I appreciate that. And everybody have a good day.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. And yeah, happy designing for 2021.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.